I was selling one loaf of bread for a gold bar. Nobody called me a scammer. Customers were actually lining up to buy from me, because this was an apocalypse crawling with zombies. Turns out, I had opened a little convenience store in an urban village, and accidentally awakened the apocalypse convenience store system. Not only could I travel freely between the apocalypse and the real world, I was also completely invincible inside the store. So without hesitating, I set up shop right in the middle of the apocalypse. Meanwhile, two ability users out scavenging for supplies. We're surrounded by over 100 zombies, completely outnumbered. They spotted a convenience store right ahead at the last second, so the two of them sprinted toward it with everything they had. When they saw the shelves stacked with all kinds of fresh food, Zhang Zheng thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. After all, since the apocalypse hit, even moldy food was nearly impossible to find, and Xia Qingli was hit by the smell so hard, she literally started drooling. Seeing them walk in, I rushed over to greet them warmly. They were my very first customers since opening this place after all. Then Zhang Zheng noticed something surprising. The store's glass door was somehow holding back the zombie horde. He figured I had to be some kind of legend. So he carefully asked me if everything in the store was for sale. When I confirmed it was, they couldn't believe it. Food was so scarce in the apocalypse. Who would actually put it up for sale? And if someone did, the price would obviously be insane. So they started worrying they couldn't afford it, and nervously pointed at a bag of bread to ask the price. When they saw me hold up just one finger, both of them gave that yeah-figured look. They assumed it was one high-grade spirit crystal, way out of their budget for some fresh food. But when they heard from me, it was only 100 grams of gold. 100 grams of gold? Did I hear that right? I had actually thought the system was pricing it too high. Turns out they just couldn't believe food could be sold that cheap. They both said I was the most honest shop owner they'd ever seen. With this, the shelter wouldn't have to go hungry anymore. Then from them I learned that gold in the apocalypse was basically worth the same as rocks. Xia Qingli then said they didn't have any gold on them right now, and asked me to wait a few minutes. A moment later, the two came back carrying a pile of gold. My eyes lit up instantly. I was really about to be rich. Once I had the strength, I'd have to go out and scavenge too. After they paid, they immediately ripped open the packaging, took one bite of the bread, and were instantly lost in pure bliss. Then tears of joy rolled down their cheeks. Seeing that, I couldn't help but feel it too. This apocalypse was brutal to a whole other level. One piece of bread actually moved them to tears. Once they were done eating, they worried whether this place would ever get restocked. The bread they had now wouldn't last the shelter more than a few days. I quickly reassured them. This place had more supply than demand. I even pulled some more food out of the system inventory to prove it. They immediately assumed I was the strongest face-type ability user alive, and their respect for me shot through the roof. They even convinced themselves I'd been stockpiling all this since before the apocalypse started. I didn't bother correcting them. The fact that I had a system was not something anyone could know. Right then, the system suddenly dropped a business mission on me. Sell 10 orders within 3 days, or be stuck in the apocalypse forever. I froze the second I saw it. This thing was trying to turn me into a top-tier salesman, so I quickly asked the two of them to help spread the word. They happily agreed and headed out. And since the first transaction was complete, the system unlocked instant noodles and sausages as new products. A while later, the two made it back to the shelter. Everyone assumed they'd brought back moldy bread as usual, but when they got a clear look at the fresh bread, they thought they were dreaming. When the two told everyone about the convenience store, the leader let out a shocked gasp. Someone this good actually existed in the apocalypse? Everyone grabbed the bread and started eating. Every single one of them burst into happy tears. Then Xia Qingli spoke up with a suggestion. Move the shelter closer to the convenience store. That way nobody would ever have to worry about food again. But before anyone could respond, the door got kicked open. A crew of mercenaries walked in, and everyone immediately started trembling. Because these guys were the ones running the city. They were there to drag everyone back as labor. Just as they were about to make a move, one of the lackeys spotted fresh bread on the ground. The purple hair guy immediately got aggressive, demanding to know where the food came from. Xia Qingli was about to step up and cover everyone's escape, but then remembered the boss had asked him to spread the word, and that the boss was the most powerful space-type ability user around. These guys were no threat to the boss at all, so instead he told them, leave everyone else here alone, and he'd personally take them to the store. A moment later, they arrived at the shop entrance. But when Xia Qingli said they had bought it from here, the green hair guy burst out laughing. He had zero intention of paying. He kicked the door open, strutted in, and said, everything in here belongs to me now. Hearing that, I snapped wide awake. Once I got my bearings, I was absolutely thrilled. Ever since Xia Qingli and the others left, 2 whole days had gone by without a single customer. I'd just been stressing about not finishing the system mission, and now a big spender had walked right through the door. But then the next second he pulled out a gun, making it clear he wasn't paying. He even threatened me. If I didn't want to die, I'd better hand everything over. Hearing that, I immediately lost my patience. I told them to get the hell out. They completely ignored me, and kept trying to intimidate me. Alright, I'm done being patient. I said get out! Why are you still running your mouth? You dare hit me? Ah, monster!